Critical race theory is crap.
Martin Luther King marched right here, so skin color wouldn't matter.
I didn't do 2 tours in Anbar province, fighting alongside Marines of every color, to come home and be called a racist. There's nothing racist about stopping critical race theory and loving America.
Josh Mandel, pro-God, pro-gun, pro-Trump.
I'm Josh Mandel, and I approve this message. You want a fighter? Send in the Marine.
He's lying. Josh Mandel launched attack ads claiming that Mike Gibbons doesn't respect military service. The very week Mike's son was deployed overseas. Josh Mandel tells lies because Mike Gibbons told the truth. That Mandel is a 25-year career politician with no business experience. Mandel exploits military service to score dishonest political points. Josh Mandel, I served our country, not your career.
I'm Mike Gibbons, and I approve this message.
I'm Jane Timken. As a mom and former college athlete, I know how important women's sports are. They teach our girls to be winners. But the Biden Democrats want to force our daughters to compete against men in the pool and on the court. It's outrageous. From ruining girls' sports to critical race theory, the liberals are trying to destroy our country. I'm Jane Timken. I approve this message because it's time to fight back.
Are you a racist? Do you hate Mexicans? The media calls us racist for wanting to build Trump's wall. They censor us, but it doesn't change the truth. Joe Biden's open border is killing Ohioans, with more illegal drugs and more Democrat voters pouring into this country. This issue is personal. I nearly lost my mother to the poison coming across our border. No child should grow up an orphan. I'm JD Vance, and I approve this message because whatever they call us, we will put America first.
Okay, welcome. It is Wednesday, 6 April, the year of our Lord 2022. War Room Battleground commences right here and right now. We added the 4th hour so that we could really focus on these primaries and this general elections coming up. Remember, the task and purpose here is to provide a platform of news and information so that we can essentially take apart the Democratic Party brick by brick and make sure that it is not ever again a national political institution. We're going to do it at the school board level, precinct strategy, election workers, election officials, election boards, town councils, all the way up to state legislatures, also the DAs, the secretaries of state, the attorney generals, governors, and of course the federal offices, the House and the Senate. The House of all those being the one that probably we're most focused on because of the importance of taking back the House of Representatives. And our mission and mandate there is a 100-seat pickup that we can govern then for 100 years. And it looks like it's all in process. Of course, we have to execute, and that's what we're here for today. As they start to heat up, and really from Easter Monday, which is a week from now, I think it's April 15th, right after Easter Monday, all the way for the next 60 days after that, probably to mid to late June. It's going to be the primary season, and they're really bunched up one after the other. And so it's going to be quite intense in late April, early May when these start for the next, 4-6 weeks. Going to be some titanic battles. The one we want to kind of kick off and look at was the Ohio Senate race. There it is a good old-fashioned MAGA throwdown. They're 4 highly qualified candidates. They're really at each other every day. Last night, I think they had the last debate, or at least the last debate that's been planned as these folks have gone at it. You've got, I want to bring in Boris Epshteyn, and you see the difference in tone in those ads, and they're making more ads as we speak, and they've already played a lot of ads. You got Josh Mandel, Mike Gibbons, Jane Timken, and JD Vance. And people forget the reason we wanted to start here, Boris. You and I spend a lot of time talking about the free state of Florida, what's going on there in redistricting and other things. Right. You talk about the Tennessee's taking real leadership with that legislature down there, particularly the way they braced up the governor and got the redistricting done, which was just amazing. We talk about Texas, and obviously Governor Abbott had a big press conference today, national news. We covered that on the 5 o'clock show. But, the Texas is a leader. And, of course, Arizona, the railhead of really the Trump movement. But we don't talk about Ohio enough. And the reason is, as you know from the 2016 campaign, Ohio is central to the strategy of not just winning the electoral college, but really that the becoming such a MAGA state its gravitational pull is pulled in Wisconsin, pulled in Michigan, pulled in Western Pennsylvania, pulled in Iowa. The demographic is very much the same. And of course, the working class issues and the issues about the Chinese Communist Party and the factories, the jobs shipping overseas, the drugs coming in, issues with every town being a border town. They have a great similarity. But we have not given Ohio its due, because Ohio may, at the end of the day, be the first among equals of all those states. And we really want to focus on this Senate race to kick things off in our analysis. We're going to be doing a state every couple of days, Boris and I, breaking down the polling, breaking down the strategy, breaking down where these candidates are. And we want to start in Ohio, I think, because, Boris, you've got, of all the other states, and you've got great candidates in these states, here you have kind of four Showtime individuals. Josh Mandel, very well known in the conservative movement. I think he was treasurer of the state years ago, but a very well known guy. Obviously, Jane Timken headed up the Trump organization there and is very well known. You've got J.D. Vance. Obviously, he's internationally known for the book. And Mike Gibbons, who ran for, I think, Senate before, is very well known. This is four Showtime MAGA candidates. They're really in a tight throwdown. And I want to turn it over to you to give you your first set of analysis. And particularly, it's kind of surprising where the polling is right now. I think it's a lot closer than people think. But you clearly have seen unlike in other MAGA races, I think you've seen the power of what I call TV money is playing out here in Ohio. Boris Epshteyn, give us your strategic assessment of where we stand basically a month out. And I think right now the judge, Boris, I think you agree with me, as we see it now, Tuesday, May 3rd is going to be the primary unless it gets moved. But as right now, it looks like that's primary date. So give us your assessment.
Steve, honored to be with you. There's tons of news coming in as we speak. This is, Ohio is a vital state. And Ohio is a state, Steve, that in 2016, when we were there together on the Trump campaign, Ohio was viewed as the railhead, right? As the railhead of that industrial Midwest. And that was a big part of your strategy when you came in to take control of the apparatus of the campaign under the leadership of President Trump, and then candidate Trump, is you win Ohio, and with that goes Pennsylvania, with that goes Michigan, Wisconsin, and others. And we won Ohio in 2016, and President Trump won Ohio even bigger in 2020. So Ohio has gone from a state that was a true toss-up to now a state that's MAGA red, just like Florida. I mean, and this is so vital to note, the two states that were usually seen as bellwethers, right, as states that if you win these, you win the presidency, have gone from toss-ups and battlegrounds effectively to states which are battlegrounds within MAGA, meaning MAGA candidates in Ohio are battling with each other. And the same thing is going to be happening in Florida in different races. It's whoever wins the primaries is overwhelmingly likely to win the general in that Senate race. And,
hang on 1 second. I want you to go over that one more time. Remember in the Bush years and with Obama,
it was all about
McCain, Ohio and Florida. Remember, yes. Even in our campaign in 16, the intensity, and we said, hey, if we can get a spread in Ohio that allows us to spend time in other places, but places like Youngstown and others have demographics and issues very similar to Western Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, even parts of Iowa. It's that gravitational pull that you got to do there. Today, there's no question. I think Ohio is a +9. Ohio and Florida are not just Trump country. They're heavy duty MAGA country too, right? These are blood red. Heavy duty. The Trump movement have shifted this in 8 years. Now, that being said, the dynamics within these states is fascinating, and particularly Ohio in this Ohio Senate race, Boris Epshteyn.
No doubt about it. So we start right in the progression from the 2000 election through 2016 and into 2020 of these two states, Ohio and Florida, being true battlegrounds to now being absolute MAGA red. Now let's look under the hood and look at Ohio, and it's a MAGA race, and I'm supporting and advising Jane Timken. I want to say that straight out. Always signal, not noise, and complete transparency for the audience. That's the candidate I'm supporting. But there's no way that one can deny the fact that the leading candidates in this race, all of them, Jane Timken, Gibbons, Mandel, J.D. Vance, Dolan's the only outlier, but he doesn't have a shot right now. They are all aggressively focusing on their MAGA credentials and courting MAGA and, of course, courting President Trump's endorsement. So what does that tell you? That tells you that it's not just Republicans, it's that MAGA is in control of Ohio. And that this race right now, there was a press release from the Timken campaign this morning to put out the latest poll. And by the way, this is the first poll in about 3-4 weeks put out, including internals, and it shows effectively a tied race all the way from top to third or fourth. So and about 4% still undecided. So this is a race where there's a lot of movement to come in the next about 3+ weeks. People are on the lookout for potential endorsement from the president. There's potential for some outside money to come in to be spent from big outside groups. But the key here for this audience, for the War Room Posse, is that Ohio has gone now to a place where it's so deep red that the choice is going to come down likely to who's the most MAGA. And that is a huge win for this audience, for the MAGA movement, and for President Trump.
And let me see how that manifests itself. You have a candidate, Dolan, comes from a very wealthy family, is not shy about spending money. He was to galvanize more of the establishment, or I would say the never Trump elements of a thing. And it hasn't come together.
No.
The biggest issue is the undecideds about the undecideds about the four MAGA candidates. Now you do have still a spread of Gibbons and kind of what you get down to that next tranche of kind of Mandel, Timken, and JD all kind of bunched up. And this is where it's interesting, because you would think in MAGA, the grassroots have not galvanized around any candidate. And that's why, Boris, you and I have talked about this. The TV spend has become so important in Ohio.
It hasn't with the TV spend, but only by MAGA. Steve, note that. Dolan's TV spend, Dolan's ad spend isn't breaking through. He's capped out. It's the MAGA spend that's making a difference. And a big part of it is because of name ID and the voters getting to know the candidates and getting to know them through the advertisements and through television, as well as other media. But again, it's not just any ad spend; it's MAGA ad spend, right? So and again, look at the ad. You just played them, and then there's others out there that from the past. Every single ad from these leading four candidates, all of them tout their credentials in terms of MAGA, in terms of America First, standing up to woke radical policies. None of them are trying to somehow play footsie with the establishment or play footsie with the Bush wing. All of them are absolutely focused on conveying to the voters of Ohio that the specific candidate, Timken, Gibbons, Mandel, or Vance, are as MAGA as they come. And for some candidates like J.D. Vance, who's had a history of being against President Trump in 2016, he's worked very hard to go on the other side of that. Whether the voters believe it or not, that's not up to me to say. But it's just the point is that everyone is talking MAGA. Anybody who's got a shot is talking MAGA.
And here's the amazing thing about it. Rob Portman is probably the most, I would say, moderate or Bush-like of these senators, right? He's been very instrumental in a lot of these bipartisan deals that Biden has worked on with him. He's kind of a beloved character in Ohio politics. He did come back Timken, but it's almost like Portman doesn't exist, or Portman's not this is hardcore MAGA. And you can tell that Sherrod Brown is going to have Tim Ryan run as a left-wing populist mini-me, right? You can already see what Tim Ryan's campaign is going to be. This campaign among these four is basically to prove that you're the most MAGA. How do I prove I'm the most MAGA? To the fact of you've got JD and Mike Gibbons doing a throwdown on the stage. JD's not JD. You've got Mandel, and Josh has been very aggressive. Josh has been very aggressive in just about every setting he's been in, trying to show that hey, Gibbons says I'm Trump tough. Josh is out there. I'm MAGA tough. These people have been burnishing their credentials of MAGA and really trying to convince that. And here's the thing: going at it as long as they've gone and really being kind of known in Ohio, the state of Ohio, although they didn't have high name ID. Still 30% of the electorate is undecided. Don't you find that pretty amazing this late in the game, or do you anticipate you're going to have a lot of people breaking the last 4 or 5 days of this campaign?
I think this is one of those campaigns that's old school, that's going to be decided on election day. And I think, again, with COVID now hopefully being fully gone, and let's be honest, not being used as an excuse for over-the-top mail-in balloting, I think that this election is overwhelmingly likely to be decided on Election Day, on May 3rd, as long as that holds as the Election Day. And here's why. Because, again, all of these candidates are running full steam ahead on MAGA. And, Steve, we've talked a lot about, the polling of, MAGA and President Trump being at over 90% versus the rhinos, and how MAGA has taken over. This is a specific concrete example that we are pointing to, where the polling now shows that Dolan is effectively immaterial. He's irrelevant. And he's the only one who represents, the old school establishment, the rhinos. Everything else is MAGA. And what that says is that the transformation of, and yes, that's the point about Portman, the transformation of the party from the country club khaki Republican. Yes, Rob Portman's undoubtedly beloved in Ohio, but the transformation of the party from the neocon, old school, make a lot of deals Republicans to heavy MAGA is complete, and you're seeing it in Ohio, you're seeing it in Missouri, you're seeing it in Arizona, you're seeing it all across. You're seeing it in Alabama, you're seeing it all across the country, where MAGA has taken over. And that is a historic achievement by President Trump, and a historic achievement, vitally, by the War Room Posse and the MAGA movement. And to all of you sitting at home, you've got to look at yourselves in the mirror and say that since we've been fighting so hard, since we've been putting our shoulder to the wheel on everything, on 3 November, on redistricting, on the runaway spending, on holding the woke Democrats, but also the rhinos to account, this is what a win looks like. A win is when you've got a horse race to the wire, and it's not as if someone, one leader is saying, no, we've got to look ahead and not backward to 2020, and let's move forward. There's none of that. All of these candidates have come out hot on 3 November. All of them have come out strong on redistricting. All of them are strong on CRT. And yes, I believe that Jane Timken is the stronger candidate. I think she was a strong chair of the Republican Party. Others disagree, and that's fine. That's what happens in primaries. But this is not a Republican primary where the leading candidates are separated by a true divide on where they stand on the vital issue of MAGA versus not. It is all blood red MAGA, and that's a major win for us and a major win for President Trump as we look toward 24.
Okay, as you get this far into it, last night was the last official debate. They may have others, but I think one of the reasons even the candidates are saying they've had so many of these town halls or meetings or debates, and the separation really has been about TV spend. Right. Is it because no one's actually closing the deal? Do you have 30% still undecided because no one's closed the deal in your mind? Is no one closed the deal yet? Are people still waiting? How much more information are you going to find out about Josh Mandel? How much more information about Jane Timken? How much more information about JD? Even attack ads. Look, and I'm sure, as you know, as you close in on the last couple of weeks of the politics, it always goes to attack ads. And maybe that drives people's negatives up. But there's not a lot of new information. It may be formatted in a different way, right? So how do you see this thing playing out? Is it going to come down to who has the most throw weight as far as ability to get up on TV and to do it smartly on television?
I think it's going to come down, actually, it could come down to old school barnstorming the state, and who goes and looks at the most people in the eye, speaks to the most people, and brings the most heat, and really truly convinces them that this is the MAGA candidate. That this is the candidate people are comfortable with, candidate who's been consistent throughout, and a candidate who can be trusted. So I could very easily see it come down to that. Let's not forget, it's still a primary in a midterm, right? So the big reason why you have so much undecided is because people are still getting their sea legs under them in terms of another political season. We've been in fighting shape. We've been in playoff football shape nonstop since, let's be honest, 2015, right? We haven't taken a day off. But in terms of the electorate, in terms of the voters, they've got, this isn't their everyday, for a lot of them, this isn't their everyday concentration. You're going to see a hot focus on this election in Ohio. Just you're going to see it in Pennsylvania, and you're going to see it in Georgia. You know, all these elections in Nebraska, in the state in the month of May. But in Ohio specifically, it's going to come down to ad time. But I think it's going to be very important for these candidates to barnstorm the state, to get in front of as many voters, as many of the electorate as they possibly can, and close that deal. It's about the town halls. I don't think it's about you know, the yelling at each other on stage. I think it's going to be about that authentic connecting to voters. And Steve, we've got background with that, right? Because that's how President Trump closed in 2016. President Trump. By what, 7 rallies a day?
And not just that. And the rallies really what got our momentum going with the great turnout for the rallies in Ohio. Couldn't be better. I want everybody to know that watch this show. We're going to be all over this. We had Josh Mandel on the show on Monday. We had James Timken this morning. I think we're going to get Mike Gibbons tomorrow morning. We're going to get JD back up on here. So we're going to be on top of this nonstop. It's kind of a and not just that. The 3 who don't pull it off, who don't win, are also going to be kind of a mini MAGA royalty, because Ohio is absolutely a leading state in our entire movement. I can't say enough good things about the folks there. Okay, can we play Memphis? Can we go ahead and play the? Let's play the Biden. Do we have the Biden clip? Can we play that? For our podcast and radio audience, what you just saw there, and I didn't really want to. Boris talked me into doing this. I didn't actually want to play it because it's sad. This was yesterday. Obama going to the White House for the first time since he left the White House and President Trump stepped in there, and it's about Biden at this reception, wandering around and nobody talking to him. Boris, I got to ask you, for a guy who worked in the White House, and you talk about stagecraft and how you perform these things for the staff. And we'll talk about Obama's charisma and all that, but for the staff to allow a guy, Joe Biden, who is, although illegitimate, is the guy up there at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, for them to allow him to be in the situation, and it will put it up on our site, the clips of just wandering around with nobody there and clearly being the outsider, and Obama being the Sun King, the center of gravity. That is the worst optics you can have. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish, but this is the equivalent. Although Afghanistan was a debacle and cost human lives, this shows you they're just overall incompetence, whether it's the economy, whether it's the Federal Reserve, whether it is Ukraine, or whether it's this. This speaks volumes of how incompetent they are, Boris Epshteyn.
No doubt about it, Stephen. We've talked about this before. This isn't just a communications problem or a politics problem or a policy problem. This is a performance problem, a serious performance problem. And this isn't noise, because that execution, first of all, whoever had the idea to bring it, when Joe Biden is in the 20s with independence and right track, wrong track is going down to the teens, to bring in Barack Obama, whoever had that idea should be fired today, whether it's Ron Klain or Kate Bedingfield, the communications director, or Psaki leaving a turd on her way out. Whoever it is has got to be reprimanded, because it was a terrible idea. Because the contrast for Democrats is so horrible. Here you have Obama, who, by the way, was a terrible president, let's just be honest, but at least he's got his faculties about him. He rolls in there and he's cool and he's looking, he's hanging out with everybody, and everybody wants to surround him, and the magnetism is there for Democrats. And then you got this feckless, tired, decrepit, absolutely divorced from reality old man. And you're trying to tell us he got 81 million votes? There's no one in that room that wanted to talk to him. And he got more votes than anybody in the history of the United States of America? We are not stupid. We will not be fooled. So if the goal of the White House yesterday was to again prove Joe Biden's illegitimacy, to again put his fecklessness on display, to again embarrass him and his pathetic staff, then they all get A pluses. If the goal was somehow to benefit this absolutely decrepit administration, then they all ought to be fired today. And I don't, we know Joe Biden did it, but
wasn't,
Joe Biden,
hang on, wasn't the point
Nancy Reagan style?
What was it? But weren't they trying to do? Weren't they trying to do this to have Obama some of the reflective glory and say, hey, we are still Democrats, and try to they brought him back for a reason. It was high risk, and man, did it not work. It was embarrassing. And you kind of felt tough to feel sorry for Joe Biden. But there you saw an old man just wandering around, and
just as a human being, and he stole this election. He's completely illegitimate. They're a criminal family. But just as a human being, I looked at this again. If I'm an alien, I looked at this, and you got to feel a little sad for this old guy who doesn't know where he is, and he's reaching for the young guy. It was a pathetic performance by the White House. They all ought to be reprimanded.
Okay, short commercial break. Andy Biggs, Liz Yore going to join Boris Epshteyn, myself. A lot going on. The war on the American family, an invasion on the southern border. Andy Biggs from Arizona, Liz Yore from Chicago. But join us next in War Room Battleground.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back to War Room Battleground, Wednesday, 6 April, year of our Lord 2022. We've got the great Andy Biggs, congressman from Arizona, join us now. He's under a lot of time pressure. He's got a punt, but Congressman Biggs, this Title 42, your beloved state of Arizona is on the. It's already it's being invaded right now. We know that there's more people coming across the border. They just put the number up for March, biggest in history. More people coming across than landed on D-Day in 1944 in Normandy. Over 158,000 people. I think it's 170,000 this month. But Title 42 is coming off. What can you do at the federal level as a congressman, where you are today, to help fight this with this debacle of 42 coming off with no plan? And then what could you do for your beloved state, really at the state level?
We're frozen here, so I can go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
You ready? Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so at the federal level, what we've been doing is we're fighting the Democrats. We've exposed them every way we can. We got Mayorkas to come in. He wasn't very candid with us. He didn't tell the truth. We have to keep pushing that narrative, get it out there. The values of the Democrats is on this issue totally anti-American. So we have to force that hand. We have to quite frankly use these must-pass bills, whether it's budget or anything else. And it's what the Senate's doing right now. They're saying we're not going to give you that COVID relief bill, which is unnecessary anyway. But we're not going to give that to you unless you do something about Title 42. So that's one thing. Just use every leverage point. If I was governor of the state of Arizona, that I would declare an emergency. I would bring the legislature back in special session. I would put money and funds and resources. I'd get my militia down there, which is the National Guard. They'd be on the border. We'd be standing there telling people, go home, go away. If they persisted, we'd arrest them. We'd find ways to arrest them for trespass or other issues. We would do what Greg Abbott said he's going to do. He's going to put them in buses and bus them up to Washington, D.C. And I'd make sure my county sheriffs on those border counties and other counties in Arizona that are trying to enforce the law, make sure they have the resources they need, everything from drones to helicopters to personnel to radios, and make sure that the DAs in those counties have what they need to prosecute people who are coming in. It's an all hands on deck type of thing, Steve, because we're talking of those folks in the first 2 weeks in March. Because of Title 42, we were able to send half of the people back. But without Title 42, everybody that's coming over practically, with very few exceptions, is going to be admitted in this country, released. We're going to lose track of them. And the estimates right now is it's going to be almost 500,000 a month. And that's a huge number coming in. And we got to stand up and fight that at the state and federal level.
Congressman Biggs, I mean, you're one of the leaders in the Freedom Caucus. You're one of the leaders of the Trump movement, MAGA. You're very highly regarded in Congress. You just laid out a series of kind of blocking moves about finances and that in Washington, but then actual practical action items you can do at the state level. Can you as a congressman and can the congressional delegation actually sit with Ducey, sit with Brnovich, sit with people and say, hey, if this happens, you're not going to have in Arizona. I mean, this is a crisis. This is an invasion. And it's happening now. If 42, and it looks like they're not going to back off it. If 42's taken away starting May 23rd, and even before that, because right now the Border Patrol is not enough people, you're going to have an invasion that's going to destroy the state of Arizona. So can the congressional delegation take, I mean, the punch list you gave us right there about the state. Hey, if people were doing that, I think the citizens would feel so much relief. So what can you do as a congressman to take leadership here and help and assist the Republicans at the state level actually take action?
Well, you're right. We've got to keep pushing with our state leaders, whether it's the Senate President, House Speaker, the governor, the Attorney General, all of them. We need to keep pushing on them. And then we also have to provide the encouragement for our county leaders. I'm talking whether it's in Arizona, it's Cochise, Pinal, it's Yuma County, Santa Cruz County. We need to get their sheriffs, their elected officials also on the same page and unifiedly take this to the governor, because these are things I think the governor can do. And we're trying to encourage our state to take these actions. If they take the action, Steve, I think it forces the cartel to try to find someplace else to enter. And with Texas taking their action, and there's just a small boot in New Mexico, and then hopefully everybody else is going to go to California and work their way up to Nancy Pelosi's estate, palatial estate up there in Northern California.
Congressman Biggs, has anybody in the administration come forward and actually shown you a well thought through plan for what they intend to do with Title IV? I know you said Mayorkas came up, but is there any plan that you've seen that, and by the way, if I was Mark Kelly and these Democrats, I'd be scared to death, because this is going to be the end of the Democratic Party, I think, in these border states. But has anybody had the respect for the American people to actually come forward and show you and show Congress, show the House an actual plan?
No, they don't have a plan. That's what even Mark Kelly has said, that don't do this because you don't have a plan. What Secretary Mayorkas is indicating publicly is that they're going to work with nations down in Central America and Mexico to get them to stop some of the flow. They're going to try to speed up, if you will, the release into the country. That's what he's talking about. He's not talking about stopping them from coming to the country. He's talking about processing their asylum claims as quickly as possible. And what that means is they're going to release them into the country. That's what they're talking about. It's an anti-American plan, and it's a illegal alien plan. And that's part of the problem. And that's why we continue to push. And we've just taken it to the Democrats in our Judiciary Committee hearing, bill after bill after bill related to this issue today. And they don't get it. Their values are not yours and my values. They're not the values of American first Americans. Quite frankly, they're not the values of the independents or even the softer Democrats. People want this border secured. And these guys don't get it.
And Hispanic Americans. That's where we're going to have a sweeping victory in states like Arizona, Texas. Last question. You know the law pretty well. You know the Constitution very well. Do you believe, as we preach on this show, that this will be the first article of impeachment of Joe Biden, the initiation, exacerbation of an invasion of the United States, sir?
Well, it certainly is the one articles of impeachment that I signed on to many months ago, because this is not a new phenomena with this administration. They've been forcefully and willfully opening our borders. So I signed on to Bob Gibbs from Ohio as we worked on that together. And it's also, so we need to impeach Biden, but you also have to take out Kamala Harris and you have to remove Secretary Mayorkas. And that's why 8 months ago I introduced a bill to impeach Secretary Mayorkas.
Congressman Biggs, how do people follow you on social media and how they find out more about you?
On Twitter or Truth, you can follow me at Rep. Andy Biggs, AZ.
Congressman Biggs, thank you for joining us here in the War Room.
Steve, thanks for all you do. Thank you.
Thanks, brother. I want to bring in Boris. We're going to get Liz Yore in a second. Boris, the scale of this is mind-blowing. The numbers you talk about, we have Todd Benson on here. We're going to have more reporters. We got Benson trying to go in the field. We're going to have Oscar Blue. Burquam, and I think he's going to McAllen, Oscar Blue, Auden, Cabello. We're going to have the whole team, Michael Yon, deployed down there for this invasion of the United States for full coverage. It boggles the mind. And here's what I think is boggling the mind is people just don't see enough action. Look, Governor Abbott had the press conference. I happen to think a lot of it's performative, putting on buses to come to Washington, D.C. That's just going to be, that sounds good in a press conference. It's just not going to happen. But to stop this at the border, Boris, why are state officials not taking, when the Biden administration clearly wants to exacerbate this invasion, why are Republican state officials now not taking more action, sir?
Weakness. Absolute and utter weakness. We need strong leadership. We need MAGA leadership. That's what we talked about in the Ohio race, and we've got that across the country. But what we need in these border states is strong MAGA leadership and action. Not, again, performative art and not something that's meant to just placate the base, but strong, real action. And again, this all ties together. Always, always seeing all that noise and no conspiracies, but no coincidences. It's the same people who are weak on redistricting. It's the same people who are weak on 3 November. They are also weak on the border. And it cannot be overstated what a disaster this action by the illegitimate Biden administration is going to be. Once again, elections of consequences, stolen elections of catastrophic consequences. And the Biden feckless regime is failing to address this with any sort of real plan. Could you forget the most powerful country on earth, okay? But would you have a small business, would you have a sandwich shop go into anything major with such a lack of planning? And look what Andy Biggs just told us. Mayorkas doesn't want to have to pretend to have a plan. Oh, we're going to engage, we're going to talk. Word salad. The same crap we get from Kamala Harris. It is disrespectful to the American people, the way that we are being treated by the Democrats in power. And that is why not only are we going to get 100 seats for 100 years, not only is President Trump going to win in 2024, but we are going to end the Democratic Party because of the way that they are absolutely, conspicuously, and deliberately ruining this country. My family and I came here looking for American greatness, seeking the beauty of America and the promise of America. And we are so honored to be here. We're so honored to be citizens. Full stop. And that is why I will never stop. I will never stop fighting for this country. And I am so disgusted by the way that these people who are illegitimately in power are attacking the very basis of American democracy, our security, our border.
Yeah. Kamala Harris was interviewed by Joanne Reed the other day. Maybe we'll pull that for tomorrow. And she said, hey, tell us about Ukraine. Why are we involved in it? And she goes, the sovereignty, the territorial integrity, and the self-determination of a border of Russian-speaking Ukrainians on the eastern border of Ukraine. The sovereignty, a great nation can't exist unless you have sovereignty, territorial integrity, and self-determination of its people. This is something that will go down in American history, and our founders would be shocked. And every patriot's grave of people that gave their lives for this country would be stunned about how the Biden administration exacerbating this. And people, I know the Republican establishment does not like me talking about this. Joe Biden is going to be impeached. The movement to impeach him is going to start in the House days after we take control of the House in January of 2023. The first article of impeachment, there'll be 3, Hunter Biden's laptops and all that entails, and also Fauci and everything that happened there. But the first article and the most important article of impeachment will be his initiation and exacerbation of an invasion on the southern border. Yes, sir.
Here's what I want to point out. It's not just our founding fathers who would be disgusted. Let me list some others who would be disgusted. FDR would be disgusted. Lyndon Baines Johnson would be disgusted. JFK would be disgusted. The Democrat version of the greatest presidents from their perspective would not stand for this. Would not. I bet you Bill Clinton is at home, doing whatever he is, but he's looking around and saying, what is going on? Okay? What your parents and your family, old school Democrats, would not stand for this. When I say you, I'm talking to the audience. This is not the Democrats of the 1940s, 50s, right, 60s, or the 90s. This is the Democrats who are dead set on ruining this country and are either two things. They're either completely impotent or they're doing this maliciously. And I'm starting to believe it's the latter. Because how can you be so effective?
Yeah. These are acts of commission. You heard just from Andy Biggs when they're in the Judiciary Committees in the House. They're like from two different countries. Okay. I want to, let's put a pin in that. We're obviously going to come back to that on every day and every broadcast as we gear up to cover this. I want to go to Liz Yore. And Liz, thank you for coming on the evening show. Liz, we started the 5 p.m. show with this kind of montage of MSNBC, whether it's the Chris Hayes people, the Morning Joe people, the Joy Ann Reid's crowd. And we had a montage of headlines coming out of everything from Vice News to the Washington Post. They are free. This culture war around the American family, which you've been us about, and using the children to really attack the American family and to really go after parental rights. Right now, the left is in meltdown about the term groomer and the term, pedophile sympathetic, about what's kind of galvanized two things at the same time. The confirmation hearing of Judge Jackson, coupled with Ron DeSantis' throwdown of the parental rights bill, the anti-grooming bill in the state of Florida, the free state of Florida. Could you, because you've been with us for a couple of years now, and you've always been able to think this through and to craft the narrative. Where do we stand in this, and why are the Democrats in meltdown about terminology?
Well, Steve, I'm hearing from parents around the country. This SCOTUS nomination has hit a raw nerve. And I'm astonished at how many people are aware and engaged over this judicial nomination. And it's indisputable. With this nomination, the Biden administration has made a grave tactical error. They misjudged the fury and the moral compass of the American people. And let me be very clear. This is a war against the child, against their innocence. And the war is being waged by the radical Democratic left against the American family. Parents are not cowed by the historical nature of this appointment. This issue is about the highest court of the land protecting children. That's not a big ask. Well, apparently it is with this administration. The Ketanji Brown Jackson nomination arrived at a most opportune time, didn't it? When the American people now have a window into the Biden laptop, which is flush with sexual exploitation of female. Because of the battles at the school boards during the last 2 years, the American parents are very streetwise as to the tricks and tactics of the left. They're politically savvy. They know that the left agenda is to co-opt the minds and souls of their children, to drive a wedge between the child and the parent. And so this really shocking nomination, to their peril, the Democratic Party, in my opinion, has awakened a sleeping giant. The parents of America are no longer going to tolerate the sexualization of their children in the schools, in the media, nor encoded in the law. As one parent said to me yesterday, Joe Biden doesn't know if he's on foot or horseback. He's wandering around the White House with one foot out the door, and he's going to place a pedophile protector, sympathizer, enabler on the Supreme Court of the United States for possibly 35 years. Well, the Democratic Party is going to rue the day as a result of this nomination.
Liz, we got a bulb. I got to ask you, you've dedicated your life to this. You've been such a good mentor to us and such a good guide to us. And so many people in this field respect you. For our audience, what can they do to get more up to speed on what the issues are, particularly if they're not parents? Because parents right now, we're showing those people how to go to Moms for Liberty, Moms for America, all these groups. But for people maybe even a little older, because this is their fight. This cultural fight is theirs. What do you recommend people do? What's the action items, and where do people go to get more information?
Well, first of all, they need to continue to call the Senate. They've got to call and tell all their friends and family members to continue to call, because this is the engagement of the moment. We must have our voices heard. Secondly, they need to start reading about Disney. Peter Schweitzer has a great book about Disney out. Read Peter Schweitzer's book about Disney. Read what Article 3 Project has found is what's in these sentencing reports. That will give them a very grim window into what's happening on the internet, in child pornography cases, and how they need to really protect the culture. They have got to get engaged. And I'm convinced when people start looking, when they set their mind to, I'm going to get involved, whether it's a school board, whether it's volunteering, that they're going to find the path that helps them to protect the American child and the American family. Open up your eyes, become engaged. There's no other path that is more important or issue to the salvation and really the thriving of our American Constitution and country. It's happening right now. This is the battle. This is the hill we must fight and we must die on. So that is my charge to the American people.
The number is 202-224-3121. That is the main switchboard of the United States Senate. Call now. Go to both of your state senators. Also, go to any other senator you think might want to hear your opinion. Liz, real quickly, how do people follow you on social media, ma'am?
I'm everywhere, Getter, Twitter, Truth, under Elizabeth Yore. Also, my website's Yore, Y-O-R-E, children.com.
Liz Yore, thank you so much. Honored to have you on.
Thanks, Steve.
Boris, you notice the Democrats have not been running up to the microphone to cheerlead on this. Tomorrow, the 30-hour debate starts. How do people get your email, Boris? How do they find you on social media? I know you're putting up stuff all day long.
All the time, Steve. An honor to be here with you. This hour is absolute heat. BorisCP.com is the website. We're going to have an email go out tomorrow morning. Super hot. BorisCP.com. Sign up now. At BorisCP hot on Getter. At BorisCP on Twitter. At Boris Truth Social. Boris_Epshteyn on the gram. Coming in hot on the gram. Stay strong. God bless. I'll see you tomorrow.
Boris is going to be back at 6 o'clock tomorrow. We're going to do more analysis and in-depth observations. Okay. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., Governor Palin's going to join us at 5, and we're going to have action items tomorrow in Arizona. Join us 10 a.m. on the War Room.